Hi again, everybody. I'm Rob Rosenthal with AskTheLawyers.com, and this is another episode of Ask the Lawyers. Today we want to ask, how do you know you need an attorney, and what are the benefits of having an attorney? And we have our expert today, Kathy McArthur of the McArthur Law Firm in Macon, Georgia. Kathy, thank you for being here today. I appreciate you joining me.
Hey, Rob, thanks for asking me to talk about this very important topic.
So let's say I've been in an accident. I've been in a car accident, whether it be with another automobile or a truck. Why do I need an attorney? Why can't I just deal with the insurance company myself? Why should I call you, for instance?
Well, you need an attorney, and especially a good attorney, if you've had anything more than the most minor collision, anything where there's a big impact, or you don't know how badly you're hurt, or particularly if there's a tractor trailer involved. You need an attorney on that case almost immediately so that somebody's working on your side to protect the evidence, take statements from the witnesses, be sure everything gets documented and doesn't disappear, because you can count on it that the insurance company for the at-fault party, they're going to have somebody there within 24 hours, usually trying to protect their interest. You're not protected if you don't have a lawyer.
I can assume the insurance company is using lawyers, right?
That's exactly right. And investigators and engineers and reconstructionists, they're going to have whoever they need out there to make it the best possible investigation for their behalf.
What if people are worried that, well, by the time I hire an attorney and pay for legal fees and all that sort of thing, I'm probably not going to come out any farther ahead than if I had done it myself? What do you think about that?
Well, on something that is not a minor whiplash type thing, you can count on it that having an attorney on the case is going to add value to the case sufficient that you're not going to end up in that situation. Of course, that depends on who you hire, too. You can't hire somebody who's just in it to get a quick settlement, who is not going to do the work, not do the job, not do the investigation, and not file suit if need be in order to get adequate compensation. So you have to hire the right lawyer, but in general, if it's a situation where it looks as if we didn't add value to the case, we basically cut our fees. So that's just not going to happen.
And oftentimes the initial consultation is at no charge, right?
At all times, there's never a fee for an initial consultation.
So how do I find the right attorney? You've made it clear I got to find the right attorney. How do I know I'm doing that?
Well, you need to talk to attorneys that you talk to friends, talk to attorneys, ask them questions, find out if the law firm you're talking to or the particular lawyer you're talking to is a trial lawyer. If they've had trial verdicts, if they've actually gone to trial, if they've gotten a verdict from a jury within the last, make it easy, make it the last 3 years. I mean, I think if they haven't gotten a verdict in the last year, they're probably not the right person. But it's got to be somebody who actively pursues justice on behalf of their clients and reasonable compensation. And in the event that they don't get offers that are reasonable, they're going to file suit and take it to trial before a jury if need be. That's how you get the highest offers on cases, is if an insurance company knows if they're not reasonable with your clients, you will file suit and you will take it to trial if need be. So you have to have lawyers.
Well, I think some people think, maybe it's from watching TV and movies, that all attorneys are trial attorneys. So that's not the case then.
It absolutely is not. And in fact, it's such a small percentage of lawyers who actually try cases to a verdict that you'd be shocked. Probably less than 5%, maybe a lot less than 5% of attorneys will ever see a courtroom. Even those who say they're trial lawyers haven't been to trial in years, and they're just settling all their cases. So insurance companies know that. If they're settling all their cases, then that means that the insurance company knows they're settling all their cases, because insurance companies keep all sorts of records. They put it out there with other insurance companies. There is a data bank on what lawyers are the ones who go to trial, which ones settle all the time. They know who they are, so they offer less money if they don't think somebody's willing to take them to trial.
Wow, that's fascinating. I didn't realize that. Give us a little bit, tell us about your experience, because I know that you've been doing this for a little while.
Yes, I've been doing this for about 40 years now, and I've tried a lot of cases. Probably we actually have to go to trial on maybe 2 to 3 cases a year, which Doesn't sound like many, but compared to the zero that most people do, 2 to 3 a year. I started my firm 11 years ago. We've done over 20 cases, which is just a remarkable large number of trials during that time. And in nearly, I can only think of one case that was a car wreck case where we didn't get a lot more money than the offer that had been made prior to trial and before the jury addressed that. So, where they're not reasonable, you need to take them to trial and get a jury verdict.
Now, I know you have experience in a lot of different areas of personal injury, but you have a lot of experience in car and especially tractor trailer cases. Is that correct?
Yes, we actually do. We hold the record verdict in several counties in the state of Georgia for high verdicts from juries. Those are something that are a particular area of interest for our firm. But we pretty well do any type of car wreck where there's good impact and injury, because people, even if they're not hurt a whole lot, need good lawyers to take their cases, because they don't need to be given inadequate compensation just because they hired the wrong lawyer.
So tell me about some of the real people problems and jury experience and problems that you've experienced.
Well, we tried a case this past week that involved a wreck that happened, and believe it or not, it happened almost 8 years ago. You say, gosh, 8 years, for gosh sakes, why did they have to wait so long? And part of it was because the client didn't want to have surgery, but it had been recommended, and he was delaying and just didn't want to go into surgery. Anyway, he ultimately had surgery 4 years after the wreck, then had to recover. Then he got recommended surgery on his back. The first surgery was on the hip. He hasn't had the back surgery yet. So things take time in order to get adequate compensation. Interestingly, before he had surgery, years earlier, the case could have been settled for $75,000, but State Farm wouldn't pay $75,000. Then he had the surgery on his hip, and it could have been settled for $250,000, but they wouldn't pay more than $125,000. So then we tried the case last week, and we got a verdict from a jury of $817,500 for the same case that is going to be well worth his while, and having waited to get full value for the injuries. It just took a long time for it to really show what his injuries were. The problem was he had arthritis in his neck and his back and his hip, which the defense tried to blame the arthritis for his problems, and that just was not true, and the jury saw through it.
And there's an example of having an attorney who's willing to go to trial and be in it for the long term made a big difference.
That's right. That's right. It made a huge difference. I mean, gosh, it's in the long run with interest on that. Plus, there are reasons that we'll get attorney's fees on that case, which is not normal. But we should recover over $1 million on his behalf, which is, it's going to ultimately be more than 10 times what the insurance company was offering, which isn't true in every case. But jury trials, generally on car wreck cases, if it's done right, it's the right case for the right clients, a jury is going to do right by the injured party.
So that was going to be my next question. In 40 years of experience, so you feel like more often than not, juries get it right?
Pretty well. The jury system has been under attack, and we all know about the McDonald's coffee spill case or other cases that don't sound legitimate, but once you go behind those, you find out that the plaintiff in that case had skin grafts to her private areas, and she had terrible burns. The company knew the coffee was that hot, and they didn't change anything, but ultimately she didn't get the money. So people's concept or information about cases like that is incorrect. But generally speaking, if a jury doesn't get it right, if a jury gives something outrageous, a judge is going to reduce it or change it, which is what happened in the McDonald's case. So juries get it right most of the time, though.
And sometimes, like in that case, it can have farther reaching effects, because then policies can get changed and those kind of issues can be avoided in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. Really, particularly in the area of medical malpractice rather than car wrecks, but sometimes in car wrecks, when you're talking about company policies about letting people with a lot of speeding tickets drive company cars or, those types of things, the only thing that changes policies is litigation and bad jury verdicts. It's interesting. They don't change the policy when the person is killed or maimed. They change it after a jury verdict. So jury verdicts change things. Juries speaking to issues are have an important function in our society.
So finding an attorney is important. Finding the right attorney is important. And if you think you might need to go to trial, finding a litigator someone who's willing to take a case to trial is also very important. Kathy, thank you so much for your information and your time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Rob. I'm happy to talk about this anytime.
Thank you. There's another episode of Ask the Lawyers. Thank you guys for viewing, and we'll see you next time. I'm Rob Rosenthal for AskTheLawyers.com.